Questions. Hey, Brandi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How about you?
Good. Good to see you. We're
Yeah,
working.
good. You too. No technical difficulties this time. So
Yeah.
I just had to update my 5-year-old phone so that
Ah, those updates, they
we
get
would
you.
have known, right? Well, Brandi, thanks for joining us, and thank you again for being super patient and flexible, for putting up with my technical difficulties last week and then being able to accommodate and join us this week. So much appreciated. And I know that we're really excited to have you here. So this is just a totally candid conversation. Hopefully we get some questions from the audience. We got Andy Rood in here, Sean David Young. We got a bunch of people just watching, and then we're going to have people watching this after it's recorded.
Yep.
So it's just an opportunity to talk about your profession, talk about who you are. So maybe I just gave your background. Can you just talk about what it is that you do?
Yeah. Um, well, I'm a realtor and I help people buy and sell a lot of real estate properties. I got my real estate license from the Idaho Real Estate School with Mike Gamblin. He's a cool guy. You should check him out. And yeah, I happen to represent a couple of builders in a neighborhood in Star. So having that interior design and architecture background really helped me just kind of reading like blueprints and floor plans and seeing how homes fit on home sites and things like that. You would be surprised how many things come up with like lot lines and stuff over the years as things, come about.
Yeah.
Um, and then outside of new construction, I just help, friends and family and anybody who needs it. I get a lot of referrals from my past clients, which is really great. For people who want to, buy and sell, they know I'm in it for the long haul. And so those people keep sending people my way. So that's always really great.
Awesome. Yeah, hand up. I know about the lot lines because I reached out to you not too long ago,
Yeah.
trying to figure out what my plat was like.
Yeah.
So yeah, always willing to help out a guy in a bind, and I appreciate that. So
Absolutely. Hey, it happens.
yeah,
Stuff up. There's always like something later on down the road. So
yeah, definitely. So we got a question that came in right off the bat, and so Devaboo58 asks, "What does it take to get your license?"
yeah. So what it takes is you got to be fingerprinted and background checked. And you have to do, I think it's 85 hours of in-class schooling.
Okay.
So you could do 2 weeks in a classroom full time, like 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, or you could do 3 weeks at night. Not 3 weeks, 3 months at night. And at the time that I was getting my license, I was selling tactical weapons during the day. So I was real estate school at night while I sold guns during the day. Um, I was working weekends as a hostess in a model home. And so I wasn't 100% sure I wanted to do that, but I learned, that, hey, this is all right. I didn't know that I was going to sell guns forever. So
Yeah.
people need houses than guns, I guess.
Well, they're both hot commodities right now, especially in
for,
Idaho.
for sure.
Boise State 18. Hey, your uncle's a realtor out there. Let's see. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a good question, Boise State 18, because Brandi went to college, but college was separate from real estate school, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Could you just give a little bit of background in terms of like, I actually had a question in here of what was the original reason of going to U of I, and then um, what's the difference between going to college and then real estate school?
Yeah, I would say that there's a huge difference. My initial reason for going to U of I was I wanted to be in that interior design program up at U of I, and they only have 15 spots every year that they let people in, and I was on the wait list. Like I was pretty good at it, but not the best of the best. So I got on a wait list for 1 year and a wait list for another year, and I just decided to come finish my degree at Boise State at home and live at home with my parents. So that was super nice. And, real estate school, you don't need a college degree to be a realtor. It does, I think it helps because you have more connections and you know a little bit about business, but it's not necessary. And you could go to real estate school in 2 weeks, or 3 months in the night class and do that just for work. Like, I probably would have saved myself a lot of student loan debt if I'd have just gone to be a realtor first and probably bought a house at 18 or 19. Man, I wish I would have done that. But, you live and you learn. You don't know until you know. So,
Yeah, hindsight's 2020. But
yeah.
so that's interesting, and hopefully they answer your question, Boise State 18. Um, so you mentioned the flexibility part about real estate school, so you can go 2 weeks or 3 months, and you can
Yeah.
work like a part-time job or a full-time job, and then take the classes at night. I saw
Yeah.
Stacy States just joined too.
Yeah.
So do you think that you would have gone, let's say, do you think actually that college led you towards going to real estate school?
Um, Definitely. I guess probably the funny way that I ended up in real estate was kind of by accident. I was working at this nighttime billing job for a trucking company. So we would work from 6 o'clock at night to like 2 o'clock in the morning. And then I would get up and go to school all day the next day and work. But the lucky part about that job was you got to listen to audiobooks. So I was like listening to all these audiobooks, like with Dave Ramsey and these podcasts. And Dave Ramsey's like, hey, if you have debt, you should get another job. And I was like, yeah, Dave, you know what you're talking about. So I think that weekend I stayed up and applied to all these jobs. And one of them was a hostess in a model home working for a realtor. And I didn't know what it was, but they picked me. And I remember telling her, I was like, I hear realtors are rich, but I don't believe it. I'm not going to buy it. And she hired me. And I'm like, why did she hire me? But 10 years later, I'm still selling real estate and I love it. And it's been a really great career that's been able to be molded towards my life at whatever season I happen to be in. So,
And so maybe it's almost like finding a fit, and that Boise State's 18 is making a comment about that, and maybe it's also just doing a little bit of like trial and error. I think you mentioned that, right?
yeah. Yeah.
Um, you don't know that it might be a perfect fit, or maybe it isn't a fit for you. And to your comment, Boise State 18, it might be worth exploring. I know those are both great schools in Idaho, both public institutions, so that debt will be minimized in terms of what you want to go for. But do some exploration. I know you can't really predict the future 100%, but figuring out what opportunities are out there for you, whether it's the move, whether it's the programs that are out there, whether it's the campus life, or even if it's going to be online instruction, doing a little bit of exploration. And I think
Mhm.
Brandi, so you went to U of I.
Yeah.
Talking about fit, why do you think real estate is a good fit for you? And why do you think it has been a fit for you, even with the changes that have happened over the years, especially in Idaho?
Well, I guess you touched on a couple things like U of I. When I went to U of I joined a sorority. So I was part of Greek life, and being part of Greek life means you give house tours. And now I give house tours for a living. It's kind of funny, all the things we do as realtors that I basically did as a sorority girl, in college was we would give house tours and we would do, fundraising events, and I'll wear matching t-shirts and all the stuff that I love. I still do for my job all the time,
But you
but
get paid for it.
I get paid for it now. But back in the day, it was just like, this is what you do for school.
Mhm.
And so now it's kind of funny how that's come full circle. I realized that that little step may not have been what I was studying for, but led me to where I'm at. Um, and I hope I answered all of that on that question. I may have
Yeah.
skipped around a little.
No, you're fine. Because you were talking about how you were doing what it essentially takes to be a real estate agent. Um,
Yeah.
and I think some of it is personality, right? Like you can learn the tricks of the trade. You learn what the actual asks are, right? In terms of showing houses, taking calls, etc. Um, what do you think someone would need to be successful as a real estate agent?
I was super blessed when I got into real estate. I was part of a team that taught me the ins and outs of the business, hands down. And having a team and somebody with more experience ahead of you, I think is super valuable. Even today, like I'm 10 years in and I'm still on a team, and I still find that I don't know everything about real estate, and there's always a curveball around the corner. And it's helpful to be surrounded by people who've maybe been through that situation, even if I haven't. So it's like school's never out, which I love because I kind of went to college for 8 years and I was a professional student, man. I love learning, and I love learning more about, my career and industry and how to negotiate better for my clients. And it's definitely a passion of mine.
Yeah. Could
I,
you?
if you love learning, I think real estate could be a really good place for you.
Yeah. And yeah, there's always something coming up, and there's a couple things that I think I got new questions coming up just as a result of what you were saying.
Yeah.
And if you guys, anybody who's watching this, if you guys have questions, feel free to ask, or even if it's just comments. But you were talking about a team. Can you talk about the difference between, or what is it? What does it mean being on a team versus, like, I guess, being not on a team?
Yeah, for sure. So when you're on a team, essentially, like, I'm just going to give out some examples. Basically, your team lead or whoever you're in business with takes a portion of your commission when you sell a house. And that's like the money you pay towards the team for the resources that they give you. Like maybe that's coaching, maybe that's internet leads, maybe that's, mailers or marketing or something like that. And every team is different. They all offer different things, and they all have different, features and benefits. And yeah, you decide what you need over time, basically. And like my team that I'm on right now, every morning we do script practice. So if there's something we got stumped on or something that was a challenge that was kind of unexpected, we come together and brainstorm on a way to get through that for a buyer or seller. And then like our thing after script practice is we go into making our calls from 9:30 to 11:30. And then after that, we go on appointments or negotiate contracts. Doesn't always go that clear cut. Sometimes you're doing a home inspection or you're letting the photographer in or something like that at one of your listings. But for the most part, it's good to have, structure, and they teach you the bones of the business. If you're an independent agent, which I used to be one, you're basically a business owner. You're starting your own company. And, I still own my own company, Idaho Dream House Real Estate. And anyhow, with owning my own company, I was not a very good business owner. It's not like somebody handed me a book and said, here's how much money to take out of each of your checks for your taxes. Here's how much to spend on marketing, and here's how much to spend everywhere so you don't spend so much money. And because, me as an independent agent was competing with a lot of teams, I had a lot more outgoing expenses than a team does who can group the money together and
Yeah.
get resources without me having to cut such a huge check as an independent agent. So me joining a team from being an independent agent, even though I was just on a split with myself, I got a raise, like a big raise,
Really?
by not being in business for myself because I was such a bad business owner. And luckily I figured that out, and I have more money to speak of now.
Well, I guess the offset of the cost that, I mean, because hypothetically you'd be making more money independently, but as a team, you don't have to. It's like you don't have to rent the tools or buy the tools. You don't have to, do the research all on your own. You don't have to spend the time branding and marketing yourself like fully to the extent that you would have something that's already established to help
Correct.
support you. So I guess
Yeah.
there's pros and cons, and it sounded like you're doing a balance right now between independent and team.
Well, I mean, I'm an independent contractor, but I happen to be on. So there are things that I can do for my business, like I can hire my own coach, and then that could be a business expense. Or, like right now I'm taking Spanish lessons because I want to learn how to help clients in Spanish and English.
Mhm.
And that is a business expense for me. But is that something that my team is paying for to teach me Spanish? No, but that's personal to me.
Yeah.
Um, and so there's still some luxury in there to being an independent agent. But, when I work for a team, I don't have to worry about HR, or, when I sell so many houses, I end up needing an assistant. Well, then I have to hire an assistant and keep employment tax and pay for workman's comp and keep them hours and tell them what to do. I don't want to have to deal with hiring people or having employees. It's just more fun to sell houses because that's what I want to do, is just sell. And so if all of those things about hiring and marketing and all that stuff is off my plate, then I can just do what I love, which is helping people buy and sell.
That's awesome. Yeah, so you can focus specifically on that. And to Boise State, to your question, yes. Side note, so that's awesome that you're taking the I'm assuming the dual credit class as a senior. That'll give you some good insight into an opportunity if you want to explore it a little bit further, if that's something that you want to pursue. And ISU does have a good pharmacy program, so definitely I think you're on the right track. Taking that class as a senior, I think that'll help you out. So Brandi, you were talking about learning all the time and how things are changing. One question that I had as a real estate agent, are you allowed to sell property anywhere or help find property anywhere in the state? Is it by county? Is it by area, region? Is it by state? How does it work in terms of what your realm?
Yeah, that's a super good question. Well, I'm a licensed realtor in the state of Idaho. I can technically sell anything in the state of Idaho. However, I haven't lived everywhere in the state of Idaho, and certain areas have different MLS, which is where we put all the listings. And I may or may not have access to where those listings are, and have all the information to represent a client there. May not be in their best interest. And my job is to always be looking out for my client's best interest. So that might mean I need to refer them to an agent who knows the area. Just because I went to school in Moscow doesn't mean I'm comfortable selling real estate there. I'm not familiar with, wells and septics and, any propane on properties up there, because they're in a different MLS and it's further away, even though I did live there for several years. And same with here, I'm not going to go too far outside of Ada, Canyon, and Jim County before I decide it's further than I'm willing to go, and I'll find an agent who specializes in that area. And, as an agent, I can get a referral check for that. So it's, usually like 25 to 35%, depending on the client and how much work I've done to get them ready. And I can refer them to someone in that area outside of, Boise, but also like in the world. So I work for Keller Williams, the largest company in the entire world. So if you take a vacation to France and you want to buy a property there, we got a Keller Williams over there. I'll call somebody. I'll find someone for you. And that's kind of the cool thing is there's no ceiling. There's no ceiling to how much money you want to make. And if you want to just be a referral agent and just send referrals back and forth to agents, you actually never have to go unlock a door and show a property to a buyer or seller. You could just get referral checks if you just like talking to people and connecting them.
And are there people that just play that role that are just like referrals or whatever the term is?
The referral agent is what they call it. Yeah.
Okay.
And then, like Keller Williams is also a profit share company. So if you come to Keller Williams and you say, oh gosh, I'm here because of Brandi Holaday. She's just so great. Brandi's the reason why I'm at KW. Well, then you'd get to be in my downline. Well, there's some people who make it their whole career just recruiting people to Keller Williams, and they're profiting off of recruiting future new agents to the business. And basically that's Keller Williams' way of paying the agents back for helping build the company. And so as long as we're all profitable, we all get profit share. But if we're not profitable, it goes the other way. We pay money.
Is it a rising tide lifts all ships or lifts all boats?
Yeah, right. All the boats in the tide. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some just do that too.
That's cool. So there's a lot of different opportunities in the real estate field, so you don't have to necessarily be an agent the whole time. There's different avenues.
Oh yeah.
What would you say is a misconception that people have about being a real estate agent, a realtor?
I I think the number one thing is like people think that we're all rich. And that is super not true. Most of us live in pretty normal houses and have a pretty normal life. The other thing is I think they think we get to make up our schedule and work anytime we feel like it. And you can work anytime you feel like it if you're not worried about getting paid, if you don't have any bills, which is great for retired people. But for the rest of us, mere humans who have a mortgage every month and, monthly bills to pay, we need to keep a schedule so that, we treat our business like a business. We get paid like a business. So we only get paid when a house closes. So that's when we get paid. The whole time we're basically working for free for a buyer until they close. And then when it's a seller, you have money going out. You're paying photographers and videographers, and you're paying for all this marketing on the hoping you sell it, which usually you do. You hope to be good at your job so that you can get it done. You sell it and then you get paid, which makes sure you don't spend too much money. So you get to keep your bottom line. At the end of that.
So your output is a result of your input.
Yeah.
And there was a question here that came in. So do you get paid hourly or is it commission? Because I know you did touch on commission, but that goes towards the team, right?
Well, and the commission goes towards me too.
Okay.
So I get paid and the team gets paid at the same time when you close on a property for commission. But there are positions in real estate where you could be an hourly employee. Like we are currently looking at Own Boise for an ISA. And an ISA is someone who is a licensed realtor, but they call all day long from the office, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, trying to find sellers right now for our buyers, because we have more buyers than sellers right now, and we need to find more listings. So we would pay that person by the hour plus bonuses for any person that they found that turned into actual business. And if you like making a lot of phone calls, call me because we got a job.
Yeah.
And there's other jobs too. Like we have a marketing girl who works full time and does like our Instagram and our Facebook and all the marketing and writes blogs. And, we've got a video person and someone who does Google reviews, and someone who does all the paperwork and keeps us in compliance with the federal government, all that.
So there's, whether you like interacting with people, being creative, making phone calls, just being more of the background, there's an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you guys incorporate drones at all in your?
Sometimes. With drones, it's a little bit hard because realtors are really under the microscope for fair housing. There's a chance that maybe your neighbor who's in the drone video didn't authorize you to shoot a video that day, and maybe they're walking by in the living room window, or their kid was there, or they're outside riding a bike. It's a little bit of a loophole, and when you're using it for commercial purposes for profit, you're scrutinized a little bit harder than you would be if you were just doing a drone for fun. Drone videos are great and photos when it's like acreage property, but when it's a neighborhood where you might get one of your neighbors, it's a little risky.
That's interesting. Yeah, I know there's a lot of like, I don't want to say litigation, but there's a lot of just kind of legal things that happen with using drones. But it's interesting to see, because I think even with over the past couple of years, the technology as far as being a realtor or a real estate agent that's being incorporated. I know marketing is a heavy aspect of it. So yeah, there's a lot there. I'm trying to make sure that we got enough time for a couple more questions.
Yeah.
What would you say is your favorite part about being a real estate agent?
Well, I know through the years I've done a lot of research on myself, and I'm a high woo person, which I like to meet fast friends and get them to like me and get them what they need and move on. It's just like a skill of mine, I guess. I love meeting strangers and getting them to like me and buy or sell a house and, moving on to the next thing. And not that I leave my clients behind by any means. I follow up with my clients forever. I want them to be clients for life.
Yeah.
And I also like building wealth for my clients. It's kind of cool when you've been working with a client for a couple of years and they're like, I just realized with this move, Brandi, my net worth is over $1 million. And I didn't know that until we, did put this deal together. And I was like, oh my gosh, congratulations. Like, that's so cool. And it's really cool to think that I had a little step in that, you
Yeah,
know, become a net worth millionaire. So,
that's
yeah.
awesome. Yeah, and so for everybody who's watching this, Woo is part of the Strengths Finder book. So it's this test. It's actually this book that we've brought up in a couple other AMAs,
Yeah.
and everybody has their strengths that they identify. It's 5 strengths, and then there's supplemental strengths as well. I took mine about like 6 years ago. Um, but yeah, you have these strengths that the idea is to focus on and that really make you stand out in terms of your profession and you as an individual. So Woo is somebody who is very personable and you essentially make people feel good, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Very.
yeah, in a nutshell, I guess if that was the explanation for it.
Yeah.
So I want to get tactical really quick
Yeah.
because we have the opportunity here, and I don't know how many people, whether they're in high school, they're out of high school, they're working a job. How does somebody get started in working with a real estate agent if they want to like start maybe even just considering buying a house?
Yeah. I mean, they could always, either reach out to one directly, like myself or another one of my great peers, or, ask a friend or family member who's had a great experience. And don't hesitate to interview your agent and make sure you got a good fit and that you're not their first and only transaction, probably would be helpful. Or if you are their first and only, they've got a team to help them get through the process. I think that, this is your largest financial instrument and there's no reason to waste it, and make sure you make the most out of it. But yeah, interview an agent, ask your friends and family who they know, or, like we have people sign up on our website. And sometimes that's the way that people get connected with a great realtor, or an open house back when we did those before coronavirus.
Yeah.
So,
So, I mean, I guess the key word is agent, and I was thinking about it over the weekend actually, and it made me think of like, basketball players, NFL players, when they're getting ready for the draft, they're trying to build their stock up so that they can be a good candidate for a team or just sell, raise their stock. They hire an agent, and so
yep.
your job is to advise, counsel. So this is maybe a question out of left field, but how do you balance that counseling? Let's say there's a client that you have and what their price range is, right? Because they'll identify what they're willing to pay for a price and where they want to move. And so your job is to kind of find something that falls along those parameters. Maybe it's a little bit outside of that, but for the most part, it's going to be in that. And you're doing your best to gauge what would be a good fit for them. But how do you balance that being a counsel and an advisor if they start leaning towards something that isn't a good fit for them, or you can tell isn't going to be a good investment for them?
Yeah, I think there's two things. I mean, one is logic really comes into key for a lot of things. Like, I can pull some stats that would show people what people are getting in that price range.
Mm-hmm.
Whether this property is overpriced or underpriced for that price range. It's, logic makes you think and emotion makes you act. And at the end of the day, I advise, they direct. I can give them my opinion and I can say, I really feel like this is either a good or bad decision. And at the end of the day, you direct. This is your experience and I want it to be good for you. What would you like me to do? And how would you like to proceed? And as long as I feel like they have all the information, I don't feel like there's any bad decisions out there. I think, people are doing the best they can with the knowledge they have in front of them. And you could just hope that all business goes like that and we keep moving forward. So,
That's a good life lesson.
yeah, yeah, just have all the information and then
Yeah.
decide. Yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to Boise State 18s. And I think that's relevant for a lot of high school students who are watching this, or maybe even just anybody who's looking for a new opportunity, whether it's an education or it's a career opportunity, you do your best to learn about the different options, find that information, and see what's going to be the best match for you. And sometimes it's a risk, but it's a calculated risk.
Hmm.
What would you say would be the best price for a house with 3 beds, 2 baths in Boise?
Well, there's a lot of information that goes into that statement. That's pretty blank slated. The average price in Ada County right now is 375. So for any home in just Ada County, we could get more specific into certain zones of Boise, but did that include a garage or not? Is it a condo? Is it a townhome? Is it a single family? And yeah, there's a couple more questions past the initial question, but um, average price is there, and then certain areas are higher and lower than that.
Yeah, and so you'd probably start filtering out. So based on, like, let's say Boise State 18's focus is the main things that I want are 3 beds and 2 baths, and I want to live in the Boise area. And then you start looking at, well, what do you want? A garage, like you mentioned? Do you want a backyard? Do you want to be close to a school? Do you want to be close to a highway? So then there's a lot other questions that come in. This house was built in 1950 versus a house that was built in 2010 and has everything updated in terms of
Yeah.
electricity, has, was it like eco-friendly green, layout. So there's,
Yeah.
yeah, so there's a lot of factors that go in there. Um, let's see, I want to get like 2 more questions in.
Yeah.
What would you say to like first time homeowners that maybe they want to start thinking about it? And so it's just, what can they do? I don't want to say preventatively, but proactively
Yeah.
to set themselves up in a situation where they can start house hunting if they want to get to that point.
Yeah. I think talk to a realtor and have them connect you with a really great lender. I think a lot of times when people first meet a realtor, they think we expect them to buy that day, which is not the case at all. I'm going to be a realtor 10 years from now. So whether you buy today or 10 years from now, I'll still be here. But talking to the lender and the realtor about a plan and what your plan looks like there's a lot of people who are independently employed, and they need to make sure they file their taxes correctly so they can buy a house next year. And those independently employed people need at least 2 years versus an hourly person who they kind of punch in a spreadsheet and then they come up with a number of what they could buy. And if you could find out if you could buy a house today, like, wouldn't you want to know about it? Like, you might as well just ask. And the worst thing they can say is no, and here's the plan.
Yeah.
But if they're thinking about it, I mean, it's never too early to get your questions answered.
Yeah, and I guess you mentioned lender, and so one thing
Yeah.
is that unless you come across your Aunt Gertrude who just gave you like $500,000 that she had saved for you, you're probably going to need to go through a lender,
Yep.
and that means having a good credit score,
Hmm.
right? Or even just like I guess understanding interest rates that come with a loan, finding a bank that you feel comfortable with.
Hmm.
Is there anything else?
Yeah, I mean, and I would say it's not really your job to keep up with interest rates because right now those are moving every day. Um, and, the lender's going to keep up with that for you. I guess I would say if you're renting right now and you're comfortable with a certain amount of rent each month, maybe use that as your guiding point when you decide to get qualified. Um, you know, and just say, hey, I'm paying like $1,500 a month. I'm comfortable at 1,500. I don't want to go over that. And the lender's going to say either we can or can't do that, and here's why, and work off of that number, and whatever that looks like for you.
Nice. And so staying ahead of your bills and keeping up credit, would that be, do you have any tips for that?
Um, I guess if for some reason that were to fall behind, like the average purchase price credit score that people have is like a 670 when people go to buy a house. So you need a 620 in Idaho to qualify. And if you're above that, doing pretty good, basically. And obviously the higher your credit score is, the more loan points you can buy down and get that interest rate lower, which just helps.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they, like my lender has a free debt program that they can run people through to help them if their credit's bad or they messed something up, and help them adjust their points of their score. But it takes some time. So be ready for that.
So, yeah, so maybe even just, and if there are debt programs, or if there are programs that your lender can offer or suggest, maybe exploring those. And then maybe another tip would be, just working on a budget. Budgeting is never a bad idea, and especially if you are going fresh into an opportunity where you can start building your credit. Try to be as focused as you can in prioritizing what your bills are. If you're renting, don't be late on your rent. Don't be late on your utility bills. Don't be late on any other loans that you have, because anytime you're late, or let's say you, I don't know that it'll necessarily ding you automatically, but it's not a good look. And especially if you're trying to get a larger loan for buying a house, you want to try to be ahead of that as much as you can.
Yeah.
And we got one more question. So VJ asks the age-old question: are homes a good investment always?
I think I would ask you is, what is your interest in investing? I would say that real estate's not always a good investment for everyone. I know that Katy Perry, she rents right now because she travels a lot for work, and it doesn't make sense for her to own a home. And in the $24 million price range, I'm sure it probably doesn't make sense for her to own a home. And that's okay. And sometimes real estate's not always a good investment for people because they're not sure where they want to be long term. And real estate's a long-term investment, and you need to make sure that's something that you want to do, because at any moment the market could change. And I guess I would just say, an average in Idaho, most people stay in their home 9 years. So could you see yourself living in XYZ house for the next 9 years? No? Okay, let's keep looking, because you're going to be there for a minute. Let's make sure you like it, you know? And while other investments like maybe silver is a good investment for people right now, or other things, I think investing in what you know and you're comfortable with is good. And at the end of the day, we all need somewhere to live. And if you had a really good way to make money without working, would you want to know about it? And I think that would be real estate, you know?
That's interesting. I think probably BJ and myself I think we were always, I don't know, I'm assuming, but real estate I always was told was a good investment. But
Yeah.
Brandi, I want to, I know we have a lot of questions. We were actually over the time limit now, so I apologize. But if there's anything that you'd like to say, just parting wise, for anybody watching this, and it can be about maybe just your life reflections with your trajectory that you've had, getting to where you are now, the real estate business as a whole, or somebody who's considering, buying a house, or whatever it is. If there's anything that you just like to leave as a parting thought, this is your platform.
Yeah. I saw Boise State 18 said, how much percentage money do you need down? You can buy a house in Idaho with as little as 3% down right now. And there are some loan programs where they might even cut you a check for buying a house. So if you are thinking that might be for you, why not find out? So I think that's all I could say is, buy some real estate if you want to.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Brandi, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I learned a lot, and hopefully anybody who's watching this right now, or is watching this right now in the future, learns a lot. And if there is anything that you guys had on your mind that you didn't get to ask, feel free to comment in the Instagram post or in the YouTube video, or just text BTQ to the number 208-208. So thanks again for everybody who asked questions. Thanks again for everybody who's watching this. And Brandi, thank you again for participating, helping out. And it was great to have you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Have a great night.
All right, you too.
Bye.
Bye.